Step into the sin bin. It's Penalty Box Radio.
Voted best sports blog in Nashville.
With Justin Bradford.
The toast of Music City's two-time best sports reporter.
Big Ben, the most famous belly in Smashville. And Glenn Blackwell rounds out our team to get your smash on. This is Penalty Box Radio. On your home for Smashville. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Hello and welcome to Penalty Box Radio, powered by E610 Athletes. This is Justin Bradford alongside Big Ben and Glenn Blackwell. And wow, I'm still kind of a little hungover from All Star Weekend. How about you, Ben?
Well, I wouldn't use the word hungover.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, some of us don't drink. But I was, even Monday, as I was watching pictures from downtown where everything was coming down, I was like, I can't believe I was a part of that. And rewatching all the news broadcasts, just to be a part of it there, be at the game was something amazing.
Mm-hmm. Drinks aside, you're just exhausted after that. It was a busy weekend, a lot of excitement and a lot of adrenaline. And then after it was all over, it was a little bit sad from a fan perspective. You look forward to that for a year, and then it's here and it happens so quick, and then it's over. But for me personally, seeing the way that the tourists and the way that the hockey world embraced Nashville and enjoyed their time here was everything. Nashville did an incredible job putting this thing together. So it was very, very exciting.
You say drinks aside, also drinks down the hatch, because apparently a lot of that was consumed by the national and international media here in Nashville, because they know how to throw a party.
$20 million worth of party.
$20 million worth of party. So we're going to talk a little more about the All Star Game coming up later in the show. We want to hear your stories too. So we're going to open up the phones because we want to hear what your personal stories were. I know Chris Rydberg published a story on PenaltyBoxRadio.com today just about his personal experience, highlighting the history of what this team has gone through. And it's easy to forget sometimes, especially for newer fans, that this team almost moved to Canada, to Hamilton, and there's no way that Hamilton would have been able to put on this kind of party up there. There's no way what happened. I've been to Hamilton. There's no way. It's
the only thing they would have had that we didn't was beaver tails.
And Tim Hortons.
True. But never mind. I was going to make a Ryan O'Reilly joke, but we'll leave that alone.
He was very good. Ryan O'Reilly was very good with everyone here, especially with the fans. He had a long autograph line. But speaking of autograph lines, the lines for the Predators. I mean, this town loves their Predators. Of course they do. I mean, that's one of those Shea Weber obviously statements. But the line, I had to film the line from beginning to end, and this is still, I think, an hour before the line actually started to roll. And it was going from the table all the way to the main entrance. I had to speed up the video to 350% to get it to 10 seconds long. But it's because it took me that long to walk the entire line, just walking normal space.
They had to shut that one off at a certain point, right?
They shut off. We were there. It was on Sunday that they had the Preds autographs. It was Pekka, Roman, and Shea Weber. And they had shut the lines off. The Pekka Rinne line was shut down at 11:30. He didn't sign autographs until 1 or 1:30, and the line was shut down. And my only thought with that is I love to see the fan support, but I'm going to go with the negative side of that. If you're a fan in Nashville, you can go to a practice. You can go and get these other places. And so I almost went to that, hey, what if you've got, the kids from Vancouver that are out here to see Shea Weber?
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't want to be that negative guy. I was like, it's really cool. It's a fun experience. I'm really happy for the fans, and I'm not trying to knock the fans. At the same time, I was
this is unlike Ben.
Yeah, I was like, but at the same time, I was like, man, what about those kids, that are going? Because I thought about it because I saw a kid get turned away from the line.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, and I was like, if only these people knew. Plus, I wanted to enjoy the fanfare experience.
$20,
Exactly.
They put on such a great show. And so if you miss that because you're in line for 2.5 hours,
that's true.
And you've missed a third or half the fanfare by the time it's all said and done, then, I don't know. That's just personal experience.
Well,
as half the Nashville Fire Department goes wrong by wow.
It's just a hard setup because it's like, how could you control that? You couldn't unless you tell all the Predator, the local fans, hey, don't go through the line. But then you can't do that.
Sure.
So it is. And I didn't do any of the autograph lines, anything like that. I literally just did the whole experience so I wouldn't spend half my day standing in line because I can take those opportunities.
Well, let's move on now a little bit, and before we'll come back to All-Star talk. We have Pete Weber joining us in the next segment. Amazing, the Pete Weber he is. He's just an absolutely wonderful
The radio
guy.
voice of the NHL All Star Game.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about last night's game against St. Louis Blues. one of the most boring games I've seen, I think, this season. That was bad. I don't think there's many other ways to describe it because it was bad. Low shots. It seems really sloppy. Seems like there's a lot of rust for both teams. And yeah, they had some chances, some opportunities. A very defensive game, but even then, it was straight up boring.
It was, and it was boring on both sides. It was just like, and then when you get to a point at, towards the very end of the third, when one team scores, there's not any mojo to kind of think that the other team's going to be able to come back and win, because if they couldn't score up to that point, their chances are they're not going to score to win the game. So it's disappointing when they end that way, but it was boring is definitely a good way to describe.
I want to give props to Pekka Rinne. I tweeted out that Pekka being Pekka 2014 edition. He had some nice saves, some saves that, quite honestly, a couple weeks ago, I don't know that he would have made those saves. And so I thought that even though, losing it in a minute was just heartbreaking with a minute left, and I can only imagine for Pekka, but that goal was not on him. And the way that he played last night was the only thing that stood out from, like you said, just a boring game otherwise.
Well, absolutely. So you look at this, and 3-1 in his last 4 games, but a .961 save percentage and a 1.0 goals against average. That's more what you expect from Pekka. Now, obviously, that's not sustainable. That's extremely good numbers, but that's what they need, that kind of play. So last night, like you said, not on Pekka or the defense at all. That's on the 4. That's on the offense, because they just couldn't get it clicking. They had some opportunities there. I know Johansson was upset with himself for missing some opportunities. And what I saw last night, I think it was Jeremy Gover, who's also with 102.5 here, noticed that there's some times, too, that he needed to shoot the puck more than pass it, which is great. You want to dish the puck out, but there's opportunities to shoot it, and that's what you're brought in for, is to shoot the dang puck.
Yeah. Don't take the Ribeiro mentality of, I'm going to pass, and I'm going to be the best passer in the league. We've got that covered, and Ribeiro's quite good at it. Shoot the puck.
Exactly. So that game right there.
Shoot it.
If you haven't seen that video of fans the message to fans who yell "shoot," you need to go watch that on YouTube. So here's one of the highlights for me last night, and that was Carl Gunnarsson of the St. Louis Blues. He blocked 7 shots. That's a lot for one game. One of those was a Shea Weber slap shot near the end of the second period, and I think most everyone thought, "Oh my God, they killed Carl."
Wow.
Well, I just want to see that because he keeled over.
Yeah.
And then even I think it was Hitchcock even said that he thought that he was, oh God, he's dead. Say goodbye to his family for him because it's a Shea Weber shot.
Exactly.
So what else can you think when you're facing that as a player? Besides when Shea Weber's winding up, the All Star game just finished with the hardest shot, 108.1, coming right at you. And he blocked 7 shots, one of them being a Weber shot. That's a highlight for me because props to you, man, for doing that.
Well, yeah, and you look at Eric Nystrom's leg, and that just goes to show those things aren't easy to take. So
no, even with pads.
Eric Nystrom, Martin Erat, David Leghorn,
Patrick
Hornquist. The list goes on and on. Friendly fire casualties.
God, it's ridiculous. So we're going to talk with Pete Weber coming up in the next segment. We also want to talk a lot about what's going on local hockey wise. There's a Firehouse Hockey tournament going on with. As they just passed us earlier with Fireman's League and everything. And then we also have the big thing, the SEC Hockey Conference has their tournament at Forward Ice Center coming up. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So we have a lot of local hockey to talk about to get your hockey fix as we come back from the All-Star break. But coming up next, it's Pete Weber, the voice of the Nashville Predators, here on Penalty Box Radio on 102.5 The Game, ESPN Nashville. Welcome back to Penalty Box Radio, and Glenn and I are jamming here, and Ben's like, I don't know what this is.
Ben has never heard.
Come on. This, how do you, really?
I'm sorry.
You and your headphone here.
Give me a time frame, and I'll tell you why I don't know what it is. Let me tell you what period of my life I was busy doing other things than listening to this song.
Are you watching cartoons in the early 90s?
I led a very sheltered 90s. We didn't have cable growing up.
Oh, okay. Okay, well. Let's go ahead and get the man, the myth. Well, wait, no myth.
No
but
myth
the legend, Pete Weber, joining us online. Pete, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. Now, please explain to me how your parents weren't taken in for abuse for not having cable television.
Well, there's actually a very true story for that. My dad was in Desert Storm, and when they started shooting the missiles, they canceled the cable because my mom couldn't watch that anymore. She canceled the video. So there's actually a very true story as to why they did it, and then they just never put it back.
Jeez, Ben.
Yeah, now I got to kill the mood. Thanks.
Way to go.
But we still got to watch the Flyers games on NBC 10.
There you go. There's a silver
So
lining.
there's the silver
but
lining.
only the ones on over-the-air TV, because so many, significantly more, were available on the cable or satellite setup.
Yeah, and we got lucky that Comcast bought them after we moved away.
Okay.
So Pete, we
Just
got
had to get that explained. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no, now we got
worth
that ironed out.
explanation, yeah.
My parents aren't getting arrested anymore. Maybe for that anyway.
Well, I mean, I didn't have satellite until I was a junior in high school, so it was just we're in the boonies. But anyways, Pete, just overall,
Color?
yeah, eventually.
Okay.
So gotta ask, just overall, your feelings on being able to call the NHL All Star Game. Is this just one of those dream come true kind of moments for you?
It was a great thing. Yeah, it absolutely was. It was a perfect pleasure. There were some difficulties involved. Whoever the person was who decided to design uniforms with gold numerals on white base needs a lot of talking to. But other than that, it truly was a pleasure for me.
So now, what do you think about? Oh, I mean, obviously it's been talked about so much, but everyone has an opinion on it, and rightfully so, about the 3-on-3 format. It seemed like everyone enjoyed it, from the fans to the media. Everyone really just enjoyed that format because it made it a little more exciting. But we noticed that players actually were trying a lot more because they had to with all the open ice. So what were your thoughts behind that?
Well, I think that contributed a great deal to the competitive aspects of it. I don't think there's any question about that. And I think that not only the game benefited from it, the fans, because of that, certainly benefited from it. And I believe the TV audience probably got more than a bit of a boost because of that. I mean, yes, fatigue was evident, I thought, in the last 10-minute segment of the 3-game mini-tournament. You could see that. I'm still trying to figure out how Patrice Bergeron played almost, 8.5 minutes of that third mini-game. And because he was in their face the entire time out there. He just doesn't know any way but to compete full tilt. But that was, I think they have happened upon something that they probably going to want to keep for a while.
And now, Pete, I'm curious. Of course, we had the 3-on-3 change, but there was another storyline kind of running alongside the 3-on-3.
There was? What was that?
It was I want to say it was the Pekka Rinne storyline, but then there was another guy that they let an AHL player in the game. And
elected AHL player.
Yeah, elected MVP as well. And I just want to get your thoughts on maybe the whole John Scott situation.
Number one, the whole situation was set up so that something like that could happen. It happened. You then bless it and say, let's go. That's the way the rules, the structure was established. Let him into the game. Don't try and talk him out of it, and let people enjoy it. I mean, this was a game for the fans, right? And I think the fans obviously spoke up when it came time for the Electoral College to meet. This is almost like the Iowa caucuses we saw, covered earlier this week. And they spoke out very clearly, and I think that made the story of that one story or thread of it for the whole weekend that much more enjoyable, for me anyway. The people spoke, the NHL listened, and John Scott, wife ready to deliver twins, ends up with a van which he desperately needs already with a couple of kids in tow.
Well, and I thought it was neat being at the game. I've seen some electric Predators games, and I know you have as well, but when the fans got behind the MVP cheer, I mean, just what was that like up in the radio booth even? Well,
number one, I thought that it was very discernible. Sometimes chants get going that, there's some occasion that about the officials are acting along the lines of a vacuum cleaner, but this one was far more clear. MVP for John Scott, and I thoroughly enjoyed that, and the fact that he was able to enjoy it as well. Both sides are important there. He understood he wasn't being belittled by people, but that they were standing up for the underdog, and in many ways I think that made Sunday evening to me a lot like the hockey chapter of the Rudy story.
Well, I know I can't wait for the Disney movie where we get to hear your call at the end of it, when we hear your voice go out across, Glenn.
And again,
the interesting thing is I guess they've already begun casting. And I understand Danny DeVito is going to play the role. As they say, that's really going to be a stretch.
Genius. Again, we're speaking with Pete Weber. And Pete, this is switching gears from the All Star Game just to the league in general. We can't let you go tonight without asking the Dennis Wideman situation, the hit, the decision came out today, 20-game suspension. There is a rule in the NHL book that says that you cannot hit an official. It just kind of depends on if it looked like it was premeditated or if it wasn't. What is your take on the 20-game suspension?
My take is that is the right decision. And I didn't see it happen because it was behind the play. The puck was going down ice to my right. Only I heard a large, very audible gasp throughout the crowd, and I came back as if I were watching a tennis match and moved my head to the left and saw Don Henderson down on the ice. Then obviously I had the opportunity to see more than a few replays. And he had about 60 feet from the time he was hit, and I grant you, he was hit hard, cleanly, by Mikko Salomaki. And he may have been dazed. If that's the case, take him off to the quiet room. That didn't happen. And he fully extended himself, a full-on cross-check of Don Henderson. And that is something right away. I hearken back to the night Tom Lysiak chopped down linesman Ron Foyt in a game with the Hartford Whalers and Chicago Blackhawks at Chicago Stadium. Back in 1983, my good friend Chuck Caton was calling that game for the Whalers. He now is voice of the Carolina Hurricanes. And if they had not done this, if they had not followed through with that precedent, honored that precedent, that's the same suspension that Lysiak got, I think they would have had a tremendous problem with the officials because you have to back those guys up. They have a tough enough job.
Absolutely, and it's setting a precedent, too, because I think even Eric Nystrom was saying on his show that if they don't take that and do that rule, and guys know they can get away with it, they're going to do it if they know they're only going to miss a few games or it's not going to get called at all. People take full advantage of anything in any sport when it's not called and the hammer doesn't come down when it's supposed to.
Absolutely, and we can say what a nice guy Dennis Wideman is, and I fully believe that he is. But you have to be responsible for your actions, and his action dictated that.
Absolutely. Well, shifting gears now to the Predators. We've covered the Predators. Who are they? So, but now back on track. And last night's game, we even said it wasn't the best game. It was a little slow, a little boring, and then all of a sudden letting that late goal in a minute 5 left in the game. But overall, what I think everyone is starting to notice now is that Pekka Rinne seems to be getting more back into form. Is that something you're noticing too?
Another one goal against game. Unfortunately, your side doesn't get any, and that's what happens.
So what would you say about his play? Have you noticed anything that's changed since that 4-game winning streak and now that even last night's game?
Well, I think another thing that has happened, and these things all fit together, even though I know there's the O.J. story airing on FX this week, and that hand didn't quite fit that glove, did it? But this is the thing here where the defensive zone coverage, I think, has also improved drastically. If not drastically, certainly dramatically. And I think that helped out a great deal on that road trip to the Canadian West. We saw a bit of a carryover of it last night. We did not see the carryover of the attack that we had seen, particularly in Winnipeg and in Edmonton. So that's what has to get tweaked before tomorrow night's game with Philadelphia.
And tweaking's going to definitely have to take place. I know they weren't too happy with themselves and not being able to put any goals on the board there. So as we go forward now with the rest of the season here, past obviously the halfway point, still kind of struggling offensively, but seems to have defense and goaltending figured out as of now. What do you think now needs to be made with this team, or what kind of changes do you think could be made before the trade deadline, if any?
Yeah, the trade deadline, well, I think if you take a look at the standings, you're probably going to observe that there likely aren't too many teams, excuse me, who are going to be, or who definitely are right now, sellers. That is, ready to get rid of some talent or to trade away some talent for the future. And because of that, with the laws of supply and demand, I think that's going to make the price for whatever is out there maybe not as high or higher than they likely should be for a true value as it goes on right now. So what can happen if unless some more teams really fall into that seller category, I think it's going to be very difficult to make a move. And obviously a huge chip, and that would be Seth Jones, has already been spent by Nashville. What else would they have to put out there to bring in another, and what I would think would be another offensive piece for up front?
It's going to be very difficult. Lots of decisions left to be made. Well, Pete, we're already all of a sudden out of time, so we've got to get to our break, but we do appreciate you joining us tonight.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it greatly. And again, I'm hoping Vince Vaughn is the guy who gets cast in the role of John Scott. Danny DeVito is going to take a funhouse mirror to make that work.
No wiser words could ever be said. Folks, that is Pete Weber. You can follow him on Twitter at Pete Weber Sports, and listen to him always on the radio covering the Nashville Predators on those play-by-play broadcasts. Pete, thanks again for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, coming up next, we're going to speak a little bit with Daniel Lavender of Admirals Roundtable. Just get a brief overview of the AHL All Star Game event that happened earlier this week, just to see a different format, a little bit different, see if they're going to adopt that NHL-style All Star because it was so successful. We'll speak with him. Plus, we're going to open the lines. We want to hear your stories about the All Star Game, your experience, what you noticed about it. What kind of emotions did you feel from having this here in Nashville, what it meant for Hockey Music City? So give us a call, 615-737-1025. Again, that's 615-737-1025. We have open lines. We want to hear from you here on Penalty Box Radio, 102.5 The Game, ESPN Nashville.
You're in the sin bin with Justin Bradford and the most famous belly in Smashville, Big Ben. Glenn Blackwell rounds out our team for Penalty Box Radio. This is ESPN Smashville, 102.5 The Game.
And welcome back to Penalty Box Radio, powered by E610 Athletes.
Here on your home for all things hockey in the Music City, 102.5 The Game.
And joining us right now is Daniel Lavender of Admirals Roundtable. And before we get to that, if you're on hold, we're going to get to you shortly. Just need to talk about the AHL All Star Games. So much All Star happened last weekend, and we wanted to get an update of what happened with the Admirals in the All Star Game. So Daniel Lavender, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Doing all right. Well, welcome. So the AHL All Star Game was a little different, and I'll preface this with saying that the Preds organization was decently represented there. Dean Evison, head coach for the Admirals, was the head coach, was one of the head coaches there, as well as Frederick Gaudreau, and Vladislav Kamenev couldn't make it due to injury. But overall, do you think that's a really good representation of the Milwaukee Admirals in that All-Star game?
Yeah, I think Dean Evison, of course, I think he's just going there for a bit of a laugh. I always wonder how seriously, the coaches will really, there's not too much of a game plan, but with both the NHL and AHL changing things up this year, I suppose you have to at least put in a little bit of effort, and the AHL's format was a little bit more complex than what the NHL threw out. So I thought it was a lot of fun, and it's always great to see a guy like Freddie Gaudreau get put in that kind of a spotlight.
And now, Daniel, you mentioned the format change, and what did you kind of think about the differences in the format this year? Better or worse, kind of like the NHL, at least it was something different. What were your thoughts?
I think that all of us in the hockey community watching All-Star games in the last couple of years, we needed a change, because when it's getting to the point, like in the NHL, when the funnest part of the All-Star game is seeing players pick their teams, and then that's no longer fun to see who's the last person pick. You need to change things up. I think that the way that the NHL changed it, 3-on-3, you don't see body checking. There's just no space for it in 3-on-3. So the space is there up on the ice, allows for more speed. There's a lot more stick checking. That really translated in the NHL All-Star game to make it competitive. The AHL went in a bit of a different direction, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that really both leagues are probably looking for a way to just do two different things and find a winner. I think it's a little bit of a shame that the AHL's had to follow probably what's going to be the greatest NHL All-Star game ever with the John Scott story and everything. So it made it just a little more complex having to follow that up. But their format was 9-minute round-robin tournament, so all divisions of the AHL faced off against one another. 9 minutes with a break in between, and the first half of the 9 minutes is 4-on-4, and then it went to 3-on-3, so there's a bit of a variation in the change-up. And there was actually a shootout in the very first Central Division game, which, hey, Dean Evison, you still haven't lost a shootout yet this season. That's pretty cool. I don't know if you really plan it in an All-Star game, but they did take the very first one. I think that might have been the only shootout on the night. And the final had the Central Division winning the whole thing, and they played 6 minutes, I believe, of 3-on-3. So I think everyone was just looking for something different. No matter what they were going to do, it had to be better than before, because it looked like the players before in 5-on-5 just were a bit bored. They're not going to defend properly, so you just get a goal fest, which is unenthusiastic, even at that.
And again, this is Daniel Lavender with Admirals Roundtable. If you're on hold right now, just stick with us. Got about 30 more seconds here. We're going to take your phone calls, but I just got to ask you, Daniel, before we let you go, good Predators connection in the All Star Game with Cal O'Reilly. What was it like to be able to watch him be involved in events like this, or at least be named to the AHL All Star team, trying to get his hockey career back on track?
Well, especially here in Milwaukee, everyone still loves Cal. He did so well here in Milwaukee. So I even just like the idea he's within the same organization as his brother. So he's had some opportunities this season to go up and down between the NHL and the AHL. He had a bit of a spell, I believe, in Europe for a bit, but he came back with the Utica Comets, did pretty well. So I think everyone's pulling for a guy like that. Good, hard worker, very skilled. So him being in the AHL All Star Game doesn't surprise me with his talent level at the AHL level.
Excellent. Well, I think it was a perfect, good overview there of the AHL All Star Game. Daniel, thanks for joining us as always, sir.
Yep, cheers for having me on.
All right, thank you. That is Daniel Lavender with Admirals Roundtable. You can follow him at Ads Roundtable on Twitter. So much great Admirals coverage, because it's one of those things, if you're going to follow the Predators, you really need to know what's coming up in the pipeline and all those prospects there with Milwaukee. So let's
Kevin Fiala.
Like Kevin,
There's Daniel's Kevin Fiala mention.
you just had to throw in a Kevin Fiala with Daniel. All right, so we're going to get to the phones right here. And, wow, if you want to give us a call at 615-737-1025, we have Jacob in Hendersonville. Jacob, welcome to the show.
Hey, how y'all doing tonight?
Doing all right.
So definitely my favorite part of All-Star Weekend was, I've grown up in the city, gone to hockey games. My dad took me when I was a little kid. Been growing up going to games my whole entire life, and just to see the reaction from the outside media of Nashville as a hockey town. We've always been the town looked at from outside of the Nashville area as kind of one of those teams that, maybe we don't deserve a team, but, we put on, people are calling us, having the best All-Star game ever, people from, Canada, all around, met so many great people at the game, it's just great to see the publicity, having everything right there on Broadway and on the Boarding Street, all there, just all the events going on the whole weekend. I just thought that was the best thing. Just, seeing Nashville on a world scale was just one of my favorite things, just growing up in the city and now seeing it, all the reactions it's been getting.
I really do think that's definitely the running theme with everyone. Jacob, thanks for calling in. That's a great story right there, because that's exactly what was going on, is that people finally felt like they got what Nashville deserved in getting that attention and put the hockey world on attention of Nashville's here, and the Nashville's here to stay. Okay, another phone call here. We have Clean Gene out of Bellevue. Welcome to the show.
Enjoying another stellar performance over the airwaves from the Penalty Box Radio crew. Pass that along first of all.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's an honor to have you call in, by the way.
Yes.
Oh, well, it's my privilege, believe me. A couple of stories, if you can have enough time for two.
Sure.
Going to the fanfare, I saw the aforementioned Pete Weber with Keith Jones and Mike Milbury. So I wanted a picture with him. Of course, I said, gentlemen, could you mind taking a picture with me? And Pete, being Pete, said, gentlemen, huh? But anyway, when we did take the picture, one person was not smiling, and I'll give you two guesses as to which one was that winner. But what really will always stay with me, the people in front of me were from Montreal. One 4-year-old little boy kept going when P.K. Subban went on the ice. Go, P.K., go, P.K. He had this little picture that he would just hold up of Subban. And when P.K. actually scored, I don't know who had the wider smile, John Scott or the youngster in front of me. And I think the mom also enjoyed me yelling out for Dierks Bentley to keep Patrick Kane on the bench as well.
Well, no, those are two completely different but great stories. Love that, especially kid stories like that. And obviously, we know how good PK is with children, with the community. So it's absolutely great to hear that story and a personal account of that. So, Gene, thank you so much.
My privilege, and I'll see you tomorrow at the bridge.
Sounds good, sir.
Thanks,
I'm a
Gene.
little offended
Bye-bye.
that I didn't make his list. I spent like 10 minutes talking to Gene before the game, and I see where I rank next to Milbury and Pete Weber. But
If you're offended, write a letter.
Let's go to Andy from Franklin.
Make a Facebook post if you're offended.
Let's go to Andy and Franklin.
Okay, Andy and Franklin, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how y'all doing? England.
Whoa, it's the sponsor. Be nice.
Be on our best behavior,
You're not
guys.
supposed to say that out loud.
It's Andy Maloney from E610.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Ben. My favorite part was the fact, I think, showing the hockey world, the original 6 cities and the Canadians, that we know how to boo our best enemies, especially with Corey Perry and the other guy that we won't bring his name up. But anyway, 'cause I heard some other derogatory comments towards him from the crowd as well regarding his personal issues. So I think we really proved ourselves to be a true hockey city at that point. And secondly, I was hanging out at the Omni having dinner before the skills comp and being able to meet people like Willie O'Ree and people like that, and the aforementioned Milbury, who was not dressed very well that night. But it was just great to see those people and the honor to be, meet people like, Willie O'Ree and stuff like that, who was just very gracious to everybody around him. And we had to explain to some Dallas and Chicago fans who he was. So that made it even better.
That's pretty impressive.
That's
right
great.
there.
Yeah, had to
There you go.
let the hockey towns know
Yeah.
who it was.
Exactly.
So as the aforementioned mayor of Section 216, just taking everything in from the skills to the All Star Game, just what were your thoughts behind that and the feelings behind that after waiting so long to have something like this happen?
We exceeded expectations. It was much better than I expected. I've been to the BCS football championship and things like that. It was much better than that. Of course, being a native Nashvilleian makes me even more proud, but it was just the showmanship, even the downtime between the TV timeouts and stuff during the skills comp. It went by quick because you had small-time rock stars and all the other things going on. Just like the way the Predators put something on, there's always entertainment value going on.
I think he hit it right on the head right there. Well, Andy, thank you for your input there, and thanks for calling in, and thank you for everything else that you do for us.
Well, appreciate it. And congratulations on your new gig, too. And I will be at we'll be out at Fort Ice for the SEC tournament this weekend, so I'll be calling the Auburn game. So there you go.
Excellent.
War Eagle.
Excellent. We'll be talking about that in the next segment right there. Oh,
Oh.
Ben. All right, well, folks, it was Andy Maloney, E610 Athletes. He does so much in terms of athletic sponsorship. If you have a kid coming up that needs some that needs some recognition, needs representation in sports, he can definitely take care of it. E610 Athletes.
And let you know what path to go on, what you need to do, get you set up with the training. Great stuff. I actually got to sit next to Andy.
Name dropping.
Yeah, at the All Star Game, and it was so much fun. And I haven't gone back, but I'm pretty sure there's got to be some times that you could hear us on camera.
Oh, no
only
doubt.
because we got Amy Grant to turn around and look up and laugh from our section. So.
That's perfect. Well, folks, we got to take a break. Again, Andy, thanks for calling in. Thank you to Jacob and to Clean Gene for giving us a ring, too. Phone lines are still open. If you want to talk Predators now, give us a call at 615-737-1025 to talk Preds. Any questions on that, anything else about hockey? We're also going to talk a little bit more about Firehouse Hockey tournaments coming up and more on the SEC tournament. More information on that coming up next here on Penalty Box Radio, 125 The Game, ESPN Nashville.
So chill right now.
Welcome back to Penalty Box Radio. This is Justin Bradford,
Trying to mellow out, man.
Big Ben Blackwell, and producer Joel has been on the money with songs tonight. Even though Ben didn't get one, he's been on the money. On the money. So, okay, Ben.
It'll be all right.
As long as he knew this one, we're good.
I'm feeling so, like, chill.
I am, too. That
right
brought
now.
us down a few notches. I like it.
I'm just like, oh, this is great for the last segment. So we have so much hockey to talk about, as we always do.
Let's warm you back up.
Let's warm back. Okay, yeah. Before you get to that good segue there, you want to talk Preds hockey, anything hockey, give us a ring, 615-737-1025. Give us a call here to the show. And we want to talk to you. We want to talk to people out there that are listening. Let's talk hockey. Let's blow up the phone lines here. And before we get to that, warm me back up, Ben.
All right, warm you up with some fire talk. As you guys all know, fire department, law enforcement, very near and dear to my heart. And we started the Firehouse Hockey charity little less than a year ago, have over 40 hockey teams from around the world on now and just growing by leaps and bounds. And so that's got us in the position to see some really neat things. The first one is tomorrow at 1 o'clock at the Bridgestone Arena. The Philadelphia Fire Department is coming down and playing a benefit game with the Nashville Fire Department for firefighter Hasty from Nashville. So it's free. It's open to the public. Come into the Bridgestone Arena with the rear doors of the Nissan entrance. You can probably park at the Music City Center anywhere downtown, steal Justin's parking spot, whatever. Just come on and come out, support the guys. Of course, donations are going to be collected. It's going to be a fun time. I'm going to get a little I hope my boss isn't listening because I need to try and go down. If not, I'll be there for the very end of the game.
We're just going to fake a sick day?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to. He knows where my priorities are. Trying to help
not
others.
Work?
Yeah, no, trying to help everyone. Trying to get the word out, though. I mean, it's really important. If you're downtown, and I mean, the game's going to be from about 1 to 3. So even if you just take a late lunch and go over and support the guys for a half hour, an hour, I'm sure Tavern 96 will be open. Grab some food, go in.
Barbecue nachos, baby.
Yeah, support them. And then Friday night, again, 4 of our Firehouse Hockey teams, Nashville, Philadelphia, Evansville, Indiana, St. Louis, coming together up in Evansville. One of Evansville's firefighters, her name's Beth. She was a skater on the hockey team and was in a really bad car accident. These guys, it kind of started as like, hey, we're going to do a benefit game, and it was Evansville, and they're like, what can we do? And then St. Louis was on board. And then Nashville was like, well, hey, we're supposed to play Philly. Why don't we get them on board? So now we got all 4 teams are coming up. I'll be driving up there Friday night. Anyone wants to carpool, whatever, we'll leave Friday afternoon. But let's get up there and help out that great cause. And finally, because there's not enough talk going on, Firehouse is also going to be hosting, kind of in conjunction, Penalty Box Radio and Boom Boom Cup Classics, which is Danny Jeffreyon's company. We're going to be putting on a tournament in May and bringing in hopefully around 12 to 14 fire and police teams from around the world coming into Nashville, getting to showcase our city again and how much fun we have. And all that money is going to just help come back to Firehouse Hockey and help us spread our mission of getting hockey for these fire and police teams and all the good charity works they do.
That's great.
So much stuff. I love it.
So much. So exciting.
Can I go ahead and reserve my spot to take up donations in a fire boot?
Absolutely.
Please tell me you're going to have the boot.
Oh, yeah. We're going to definitely have the boot.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we'll always have the boot.
Okay.
The boot.
Sign me up.
All right. So coming up this weekend at Ford Ice Center, it's the first time they're hosting it, obviously, is the Southeastern Collegiate Hockey Conferences. It's also known as SEC Hockey because it's SEC teams. It's a hockey tournament coming up at Ford Ice Center. So it is to crown the champion of the SEC in hockey. So here's your chance, SEC fans, to come and watch the hockey team from your SEC school play at Ford Ice Center here in Nashville. It all starts Friday afternoon. So teams that are playing, you have Auburn versus Georgia. That's at 4 o'clock on the 5th. And then you have Ole Miss taking on Vanderbilt at 7:45 on Friday night. Also, South Carolina taking on Florida at 3:30 in the afternoon, and LSU taking on Arkansas at 8 p.m. So some big teams from the SEC are coming in.
You're going to be out there, Justin. You have some SEC-HC news to share.
Well, I guess so. I guess
something.
Do you want me to share it, or do you want to share it for me?
Go ahead and share it.
Okay. Well, recently I was appointed the director of communications for the SEC-HC. So that's a good position, a board position there to help represent hockey more in the South and further the growth of college hockey in the South too. So really excited about that position to really take these teams into that next wave, that next generation of college club hockey, of non-varsity hockey. There, we'll have to rebrand it that way, but some fun news there. Being able to be a part of these different teams, going, I know next season, travel to a lot of these different rinks and hopefully just meet some people and talk to these people and really focus on the growth of hockey here, because this is a way for kids to play the sport that they love as well as get a good education. You take Vanderbilt, for instance, that they're going to get a great education as well as play hockey, and Vanderbilt has one of the best teams in the Southeast as well in terms of the rankings that were released, the latest rankings, which are phenomenal. So they have their top point getter is John Longman. He's actually away. He's Johnny Hockey studying abroad in Europe right now, but he had 46 points in 18 games.
Jeez.
That's phenomenal, and that's been the great thing. You know, if you've been a fan of our show for a long time, you know we've always supported Vanderbilt hockey. To watch those kids, the way they've grown in the last couple of years, and the way that program's grown
big time.
Remember freshman Gibby, and now he's
as a senior.
It's all grown up.
But Justin's going to be out there this weekend. We'll probably see Glenn here and there around over the weekend cheering
Andy
for Ole Miss.
Maloney.
Andy's going to be out there, and I'll
Not
be out
cheering
there.
for Ole Miss.
Andy will not be.
the voice of the junior Predators,
Peyton's gonna be out
Turnage, is
there.
also going to be calling some of the games. So a lot of different people. And the voice of UAH hockey, Zach Bryan, is also going to be going back to one of his old gigs and calling some college hockey games. So lots of different people out and about there, everything of that. Vanderbilt is ranked 5th right now in the South region. They're the top-ranked SEC team in the South. So that's taking multiple conferences together and putting them out there for a coaches poll. Florida Gulf Coast is ranked number 1, and Georgia is ranked number 9, followed by Florida, then South Carolina to round out the SEC teams in there. But Vanderbilt is a very good team. They're exciting to watch. They're fun to watch. All these teams are fun to watch. So it's one of those things, come out and support these teams. These college kids are just out there playing for fun and playing that they really want to win. This is their opportunity to play hockey and to be in a tournament to play for a championship. And it's going to be some intense 3 days of hockey. There's a big game on Sunday, and we're talking about the championship for hockey.
There is. And here's another thing, speaking of people that'll be out there, just for you Ole Miss fans, we do have a Potato sighting for you.
There is a Potato, yes.
Nick Potato out there.
Yes.
Fun guy.
And also the goaltender for Ole Miss is the brother of Josh Kessner, who is a forward for University of Alabama and Huntsville hockey. Lots of hockey in the South there, and Kessler is a Huntsville native there. So it's great to see how much hockey's continuing to grow in the South. We're getting kids from the South continuing to stay and play in the South. And that's what I think you're going to see more and more as these towns continue to grow. As Nashville continues to grow with hockey, you've seen so much youth hockey growing here at Ford Ice Center and Centennial, and we won't even touch A game. But how much it's growing here, that it's not going to be far off before you're going to see more and more kids get looked at and scouted and drafted from here. It takes a generation for it to happen, and right now we're in that generation's growing up hockey that they don't know anything with Nashville that doesn't have hockey. And that's what you want to see for the growth.
You know what? Last Friday, I got the coolest thing. Thursday night, I got a message saying that the junior Preds were going to be playing in a tournament at Ford Ice. And I went over on my lunch break, and it was honestly just my lunch break. Don't start. That's the advantage to working 3 minutes away. I went over and watched them for an hour, and it was almost like, I hate to put it and be cliche, but it kind of renewed my love, I was feeling down at that point, honestly, about hockey a little bit. Mm-hmm. I didn't think I was going to be able to do much in terms of the All-Star weekend. I knew I was like, probably be able to do fanfare for a day, but I was kind of bummed overall that it was going to be in the town. I went. I watched those kids play. They were playing the Florida Junior Panthers, actually, which are an incredibly good team with 3 former NHL player coaches.
Oh, wow.
But watching those kids play, I was like, you know what? This is what it's about. The All-Star Weekend, it didn't matter anymore. Just I went out, had fun, watching the parents in the stands, watching the boys, had a pep talk ready in case they called me over, which they didn't, but next time, guys. But no, it was a lot of fun, and props to those kids for kind of, like I said, giving me a little renewed vigor for my love of hockey and seeing what it's all about.
And it was good to see that, too, that so many people that attended the All-Star Weekend festivities were here for the tournament from all over the country and all over North America. So it brought them in. They tied that together to help these families experience something really great and unique while they're here for the tournament, but they experience All-Star Weekend. I mean, what a trip there. You get to play hockey and experience fanfare. So it's just one of those things that can't be beat. Nashville knew exactly what they were doing, putting everything together, and that, I think, that's all we can say about that. I mean, it's a perfect weekend. So anyways, thanks for tuning in. This is Justin Bradford for Big Ben and Glenn Blackwell. Thanks for tuning in to Penalty Box Radio. 125 The Game, ESPN Nashville.
Their history is unrivaled. Their legacy unparalleled.
Trap.